Sold our family business. Said I'd get nothing. Everyone cheered except me. But I had a secret. When I revealed it, everything shattered forever. It was supposed to be the happiest night of my life. Graduation dinner. My whole family gathered around a long wooden table, laughter echoing, glasses clinking. Then my father stood up. He cleared his throat, lifted his glass, and with a proud smile said the words that shattered my entire world. By the way, I sold the family business. And no, son, you're not getting anything. Everything goes to your stepbrother. The room erupted in applause. My stepbrother smirked. My mother's eyes dropped to her plate. And me? I sat frozen, my chest burning, my future dissolving in front of everyone. I had spent years working in that business. Every summer, every holiday, every free weekend. While my friends went on trips, dated, played sports, I was stacking boxes, taking orders, learning accounting, fixing problems. Dad always said, "Son, one day this will be yours. All your sacrifice will pay off." And I believed him. I lived for that dream. The business was not just money, it was our legacy. Now, with one cruel announcement, he stripped it away. I slammed my fork down. "Are you serious? You're giving it all to him?" I pointed at my stepbrother, who was already basking in the glory, soaking in everyone's cheers. Dad's smile faded into a cold stare. "Yes, he deserves it. You've always been too emotional, too soft. Business needs someone ruthless." His words hit harder than any punch. Too emotional, too soft. I had bled for that company. I had sacrificed my youth. And now he mocked me, publicly, in front of everyone. I pushed my chair back and stormed outside. Cold night air hit my face, but it couldn't cool the fire in my chest. Tears threatened to spill, but I swallowed them down. My stepbrother followed me out. With that smug grin, he whispered, "Face it. Dad never trusted you. You worked. I just waited. And guess what? Waiting paid off." He patted me on the shoulder, almost mockingly, then walked back in to enjoy his celebration. I punched the wall until my knuckles hurt. All my dreams gone. All my years wasted. But deep down, a darker thought began to form. Something wasn't right. Dad had always sworn the business would pass to me. Why would he suddenly change? And why, of all people, give it to my stepbrother, who had never lifted a finger, never cared, never even showed interest? That night I didn't sleep. I tossed, replaying his words. Too emotional. Too soft. I thought of the long nights in the office when I was 16, learning invoices. I thought of the sweat running down my back as I carried crates in the summer heat. I thought of Dad telling me he was proud. Was that all a lie? The next morning I went to the office. It didn't feel like mine anymore. People congratulated my stepbrother when he walked in wearing a new suit. They avoided my eyes, whispering behind my back. I clenched my jaw and went straight to Dad's office. He was on the phone, but when he saw me, he sighed. "Look, son, I know you're upset." "Upset?" I cut him off. "You betrayed me. You lied to me my whole life. How could you do this?" His face hardened. "Because you don't have what it takes. Business isn't about loyalty or feelings. It's about power, and he understands power." I shook my head. "You're wrong. He doesn't care. He's lazy. He'll destroy everything you built." Dad leaned back, a cruel smirk on his face. "That's my risk to take." But then I noticed something. On his desk, partially hidden under papers, was a contract. I saw the header, merger agreement. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just about giving my stepbrother control. Dad wasn't telling the whole story. He hadn't sold the business to some outsider. He was secretly merging it, handing everything to a group of competitors we had fought against for years. And my stepbrother wasn't an heir. He was a pawn. I walked out of that office shaking. Pieces started clicking in my head. Dad had debts. Big ones. He gambled, sports, poker, even shady deals. I'd caught glimpses before, but he always brushed me off. Now it all made sense. He wasn't rewarding my stepbrother. He was covering his own mistakes, his own corruption. And he thought I was too soft, because he knew I wouldn't go along with his dirty games. That night I sat in my car outside the office, staring at the glowing windows. My stepbrother was inside, celebrating again with champagne, girls, flashy laughter. He was too blind to see he was just being used. But me? I saw it clearly. This wasn't the end. This was the beginning of a war. If Dad thought I'd walk away quietly, he didn't know me at all. The next day I started digging. I went through old files, contracts, transaction records I had saved on my laptop. I compared them to the papers I glimpsed on his desk. The numbers didn't add up. Money had been disappearing for months. Huge sums. Hidden under consulting fees and miscellaneous expenses. And then I found it a wire transfer from our company account, straight to an offshore account under my stepbrother's name. My hands shook. So this wasn't just betrayal. It was fraud. I confronted my stepbrother that evening. He laughed. Of course I took the money. Dad told me I could. It's mine now. You? You're nothing. Just a worker, a backup plan. I wanted to hit him. Every muscle in me tensed. But I didn't, because I realized something. If I lost control, I'd prove Dad right. Too emotional. Too soft. No. I would fight smarter, and I'd expose them both. That night, lying in bed, I whispered to myself, they think they destroyed me, but I'll show them. I'll take back everything, and I'll do it the right way. I closed my eyes, but my mind was wide awake, burning with rage and determination. And that's when my phone buzzed. A message. From an unknown number. It said, I know what your father is hiding. Meet me tomorrow, 6 p.m. at the old warehouse. My blood froze. Who could it be? A former employee? A rival? Someone Dad crossed? One thing was clear. This story wasn't over. It was just beginning. The message burned in my mind all night. I know what your father is hiding. Meet me tomorrow, 6 p.m. at the old warehouse. I didn't tell anyone. Not my mother, not my friends. This could be dangerous. But it could also be my only chance to learn the truth. The next evening, I drove to the warehouse. Rusty metal walls, broken windows, a place we used to store old inventory. My heart pounded as I stepped inside. A shadow emerged from the corner. It was Mark, a former accountant at the company. He looked older, tired, but his eyes were sharp. I knew you'd come, he said. Your father made a mistake. He thought firing me would silence me, but I kept records. He handed me a flash drive. On here, you'll see everything. Money laundering, illegal transfers, fake contracts. Your stepbrother isn't just inheriting the business. He's being set up as the fall guy. If this deal collapses, the blame lands on him. My blood turned to ice. So Dad wasn't even protecting his new favorite son. He was using him like a shield. I asked, why are you telling me this? Mark sighed. Because I built that company with him, too. I worked 20 years for it. And now he's selling it to criminals. You're the only one who cares enough to stop him. That night I sat in my car, staring at the flash drive in my hand. It felt like a weapon. Evidence that could destroy my father. But using it meant tearing down the business. The same business I'd sacrificed my life for. The next morning, I confronted Dad. I slammed the flash drive on his desk. I know everything. The offshore accounts, the laundering, the fake merger. You've turned our legacy into a dirty game. For a moment, he looked shocked. Then, he laughed. Son, you really think you can fight me? I've survived lawsuits, betrayals, enemies. You're just a boy with hurt feelings. I clenched my fists. No, I'm a man who won't let you bury our name in corruption. His eyes narrowed. Careful. You don't know how deep this goes. If you move against me, you'll regret it. Later that day, my stepbrother barged into my apartment. He threw the door open, red-faced, furious. You went digging, didn't you? Dad told me. He said you're trying to ruin everything. I stared at him. Everything? He's using you. You think you're winning, but you're the puppet. When this blows up, your name is on the papers, your accounts, your signature. For a second, doubt flickered in his eyes. But then he snarled. You're jealous. Always jealous. Dad chose me because you're weak. Accept it. He stormed out, slamming the door. That night, I made my decision. If my father wanted war, he'd get it. I met Mark again, and together we organized the evidence. Emails, bank transfers, fake invoices. It painted a clear picture. Dad wasn't just betraying us. He was committing crimes that could land him in prison for life. But going public meant destroying our company's reputation. It meant employees losing jobs. It meant burning everything to the ground. I couldn't sleep. Was I willing to kill the thing I loved to save the truth? Days later, the family gathered again. This time at the office for a celebration of the merger. Executives, lawyers, family, all in one room. Dad stood tall, shaking hands, smiling like a king. My stepbrother strutted around in a designer suit, acting like he already owned the world. I walked in quietly, clutching a folder. Inside, copies of the evidence. When the meeting began, Dad stood up. Today marks a new era. Our business will finally expand beyond anything we ever dreamed. The room applauded. I raised my hand. Before we continue, I'd like to share something. Dad's eyes turned sharp. Sit down. This is not your stage. But I didn't. I walked to the front, heart pounding, hands shaking. This company was built on sacrifice, on loyalty, on trust. But lately it's been built on lies. I opened the folder and dropped the documents on the table. They deserved to know the truth. Gasps filled the room. Executives leaned forward, reading the pages. Bank transfers, offshore accounts, fraudulent contracts. My father's face turned pale, then red. He lunged forward, slamming the table. You little snake! You would betray your own blood? I met his eyes, tears burning mine. No, you betrayed me. You betrayed all of us. Chaos erupted. Some executives shouted. Lawyers scrambled for documents. My stepbrother stood frozen, his face drained of color, as he realized his name was on half the files. He whispered, Dad, is this true? Dad's silence was the answer. In the days that followed, the fallout was brutal. News spread like wildfire. Headlines screamed, family business exposed in fraud scandal. Employees panicked. Clients pulled out. And my father, he was arrested. I'll never forget the look on his face when the police led him away, half fury, half disbelief, as if he never imagined his own son would bring him down. But victory didn't feel sweet. The company collapsed. People lost jobs. The legacy I dreamed of inheriting was ashes. I sat in my empty apartment staring at the ceiling. Was it worth it? Then my phone buzzed. A message from Mark. You did the right thing. Sometimes burning the past is the only way to build the future. Weeks later, I met with the former employees. We talked about starting something new. Smaller, cleaner, honest. Not about greed or power, but about people. It wouldn't be the empire my father built, but it would be ours, Rick. One evening, my stepbrother showed up at my door. For once, he looked broken. No suit, no smirk, just tired eyes. He said softly, I didn't know. I thought he loved me more. But, he was just using me, like you said. I nodded. He used both of us. Silence hung between us. Then he whispered, I'm sorry. For the first time in years, I saw him not as an enemy, but as another victim. As I closed the door that night, I realized something. Family isn't about blood. It's about trust. And sometimes you have to lose everything to see who truly stands with you. My father lost everything because he chose lies. I lost everything because I chose truth. But truth, even when it hurts, is the only foundation worth building on. And that was my new beginning.